Hello everyone, Scientier here, and with the final episode of Majora's Mask. Don't know how long it's going to end up being, but if Ocarina of Time is any indication, probably a little long. And I'm once again joined by my sister, who will probably call me Ben sometimes.
Hello! Can you believe we're at the final episode?
It's been a while coming.
It has been.
So what I actually want to start by doing is just advancing time a bunch. I do need to get money and supplies and stuff, but I kind of want to do some laps around outside to get grass as a Goron.
Okay. And that's where you get supplies.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So we're wanting to get Chateau Romani before facing Majora's Mask, just so that we have...
I might go do the supply run now and then let it become...
On the first night?
Yeah, let it become late enough to get Chateau Romani.
I don't know how much it costs, so you can collect stuff in the field, and if you need more money, you can go and grab that in East Clock Town. You'll already be there.
I'll probably grab stuff from
that makes sense.
the bank.
You don't want to grab it from East Clock Town, huh? It's right
I don't
there.
really feel a need to, though.
All right. So, our last spin around Hyrule, Termina, oh my goodness, Termina Field. I feel like they have said that they chose Termina as the name because it's like terminal, like an airplane terminal, like where places are coming and going or something. To me, always it's like ending, right? Like Termina is like,
terminate.
It's ending, it's dying, that kind of thing, which feels really appropriate with the. The fact that it's supposed to die and be destroyed in 3 days with the moon falling. And like Gabora said that, sorry, you said it really go out of your way. It kind of threw me off. The fate of this land is to be destroyed. It's talking about the Goron land, where it's supposed to be frozen forever and kind of its fate. And can you help it? Can you help it overcome its fate? Does the grass regenerate or just
No,
run
I
out?
just go through middle portions.
I know, but I was wondering if it was going to be regenerating.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, unless you leave and come back, I guess. So we'll see if you need to do that or if you've got all your supplies. Now, it's interesting because what I would always do...
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask, actually, do you prefer, like, just for the fun of moving around, Zora, Goron... Deku, like the spinning thing with the Deku, the Epona, Bunny Hood wandering around.
I like the Goron movement. The part of the thing that's a trick with any of these sorts of systems, by which I mean like increased movement speed systems.
Yeah.
I feel like I've probably stocked up decently well on most things. Yeah.
No Deku nuts, no bomb twos. You're probably fine.
Oh, I'd need to go fight specific enemies for those.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like for a lot of these systems, it's kind of what sort of your mobility do you have in terms of agility or ability to like change direction? And then there's also the sort of related question of like, what's your acceleration? How easy is it to get access to this thing? And sort of initiate it and things like that. So, like...
Also, the Zora is... You can go up and down as well as side to side. Because of your swimming?
Yeah, the swimming. The Zora is, like, definitely quite maneuverable.
Yeah. With the Goron, you can attack, which is potentially nice.
Yeah. It's like how much danger are you in as well. Like, so that's one of the nice things about like both Zora and Goron. Like when Goron's going full speed, it's got the spikes to defeat enemies, and when the Zora is swimming, you can use your shield. But the Goron is more automatic.
Yeah.
But it's always consuming magic.
Yeah. What I was gonna say until we were starting to talk some, is taking a lot of money out, huh? That when I would play this game, just like mess around, remember he's going to switch over who's running the store. Are you going to be stocking up on stuff then?
I think I probably have everything I need, actually.
Okay, because for the trading post, I wasn't sure that's what you were doing. But when I would kind
I
of
was
just
thinking about it.
play to mess around, what I would always do is I would be the Deku Scrub and like twirl, because twirling is faster than just like going around as Link, and it's an attack. So I would twirl around like all of those, around the. Oh, that's an idea. All the places with the chews and the grass and stuff, and that's really convenient. In the forest in Termina Field, that's what I would do. So I wouldn't do the Goron. I think part of it is because something about using up the magic that like you do.
Yeah, that's probably going to be extraneous, but
I think so. But using up all the magic like you do as a Goron, kind of something that felt like I definitely have the kind of like.
It feels like you're losing a resource.
Yeah, even though it's completely just easily fill it up again, which is just kind of silly. But I think it's playing of that, and also it is a little harder to control, and like you're not getting all of the pieces of grass in each clump, right? So like
it's not as thorough.
Yeah, so I'd be more meticulous probably in like getting the clumps of grass and having more control because it is a little slower, but it's still kind of fun to spin around. I thought. Please come in. You remember because you're wearing the hat. But speaking of magic as a resource that runs out, we're going to fix that.
Have a drink.
What'll it be? 200 rupees for Chateau Romani. And this will fill up your magic power, and it will keep it. It'll be blue. It won't run out.
Yep. Sparkly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and advance time a little bit. Because
now,
we
advancing time in here, what's going to happen?
That's part of why I did it here.
Yeah, I know you can be in here. See, that's I told you sometimes in some places they won't let you do things. Yep. That was one of them. You can be here during the day when Mr. Barton is like sweeping or whatever. It's not actually open. But I don't know if it's at 6 o'clock versus, some random time during the day. But,
yeah.
But you can wander in, and that's when you can do that without having the Romani mask, that you can do that.
I kind of want to deposit my 47 rupees.
Yes, you must do that. That's important. You actually used up a lot of your money then, because you bought so many fairies.
I bought a bunch of fairies, yeah.
You should drink your Chateau Romani.
I don't need to yet.
The reason I'm putting it off, do you want your milk to be all spoiled and gross? Or is it fermented milk stay good longer? I'm just saying fermented because it's alcoholic, so I don't know what's up with that. Their use
now it's a blue meter.
Yes, their use of milk as the alcoholic beverage is very
peculiar.
It leads to some strange things, because like it's not just like we're censoring this for children. Milk. Like I've heard people talking about like, oh, mommy's special apple juice, right? Or orange juice or whatever, right? Kind of thing when it's like got alcohol added to it. And the kid's not supposed to get into mommy's special orange juice or something. I've seen that kind of coded language used, for censoring around children kind of thing. But this is like literally they're getting it from cows, from a dairy farm. So and also one of them is like, there's a character who's like, can you get drunk on milk? So it's like explicitly it is milk. It's not just a euphemism. It really is milk.
I have 1,520 rupees.
Nice.
In the bank.
So like it explicitly is actually real milk, but also is somehow alcoholic. So I don't know if it's that they're supposed to be like they added something to it, or if it's supposed to be that like it's like I said fermented in some way that somehow I don't think that works. Can you ferment milk and make it alcoholic?
I think you ferment it into cheese.
Yeah, that sounds more legit. Like so they must add something to it. Magic, apparently, because it sparkles and all of that. Also, I'm impressed. You definitely have the skills of avoiding the Deku Scrub.
Oh.
Because I feel like my memories of playing this game is that you're playing this game and every single time you restart the day cycle.
I've not been trying.
You get caught by the Deku Scrub. And have to endure, like, hold on, wait. He wanders slowly from the sky into his
Can I play
scrub.
the song to...
I don't think so. You could try, but I don't know what would happen. It might literally take you to Dawn, and then you get to see the cutscene of what happens if you fail to.
I'd rather not do that.
Let's not do that.
I guess I could have done my supply run now.
Yep. So we talked about in one of the previous episodes some of the special songs that you get that you use very infrequently versus one of them that you use really, really frequently. But you get that one.
There you go. Just for everyone's enjoyment, let's put a statue here.
This is one you memorized because you play it so many times.
Oh, it doesn't work in town.
I think you have to be in Icana to make it work or something. That's bizarre.
There you go,
We're
everyone.
discovering all the places you can't play songs in this episode. This is the episode of non-music. But there's one song that you actually learn fairly early on in the game, and you don't play until the very end, which is the order that we're going to be doing shortly here.
Yep.
The dog's gone. Maybe its owner took it with him. And I feel like Muto, which we've read before, we can read it again if you want to. Cowards, all of you. Not one of you stayed. My apprentice will be disgusted with all of you. I'll have a fine carnival without you. If you're going to fall, then fall already. That was directed to the moon, I think, not you. Do you want to look at the moon, actually? Maybe that could be a fun thing to do here. Stare at the moon. It's very big. It's got a big mouth. All the better to eat with, my dear. I feel like Muto and the guy that does the bank, and maybe like a shopkeeper or two. Like, basically everyone's gone. It's interesting to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a song with the order you like play once. That's made out of special metal wood. It's from the metal tree. But I think that works though, because it is like for the finale. So it feels a little weird that like we learn the new wave bossa nova and you use it a grand total of one time in this game because there's no other use for it. That feels a little, like that's kind of strange. But I feel like it works better with Oath to Order because it is like the song for the finale. And it's like the song that has the special resonance for the the giants and stuff like that. But interesting to think about. We just have 3 more hours, I guess, until it's midnight. Do you feel like the moon is like visibly getting bigger?
I don't know. I feel like it, but I also feel like I'm delusionally making it move in my...
I don't think it's getting visually big. Ah, you moved.
I did.
But I wonder if it does on other days or not. Or if it's just like when we have the cutscene saying that, oh, now it's, dawn of a third day or something like that. Which made me think about, I love the Octorok.
You have to think about where the player can stand and what they can see from that spot.
Yeah.
Or how much you actually need to render. Because I assume they're not rendering all of,
You would assume
East Clocktown.
Well, I don't know how well do the parts of Clocktown actually fit together.
Yeah, I haven't actually placed it.
I think they actually fit together decently well. I mean, you've got a map right there, but they are not a circle. And if you go to the outside of Clocktown, they appear to be a circle.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely not the case. I guess the idea is that there are parts of Clocktown we are not accessing that are like houses with all the people who evacuated the town normally would have been living. And we just saw the more public-facing parts or something.
I mean, cities and games is a weird thing. Mm-hmm. Like, either they're kind of like a little bit abstract and way smaller than they actually should be, or the entire game takes place in a city.
Yeah.
And even then, they're often maybe a little bit smaller than real cities are.
Yeah.
But, like, you think about Assassin's Creed Revelation that takes place in Constantinople. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, this is a city.
Don't they have an Assassin's Creed that takes place, like, in Rome or something? And like, the Colosseum is actually smaller than the real one?
Well, I remember because I've had the privilege of going with my family on a trip to Rome, and we saw the Pantheon there. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing it there. And then I was playing one of the Assassin's Creed Ezio games and seeing the Pantheon in that and being like, my first reaction wasn't what an impressive building it was. This feels small.
The one in the game?
Yeah, because the real one is bigger.
Well, certainly you as a character and you as a real person are getting a very different view of it as well.
Yeah.
Like it's on a screen versus like
For sure.
around you.
For sure.
All right, let's enjoy this cutscene. I'm not sure.
I've seen this one in a bit.
I don't think you always see it unless you're in South Clocktown.
I wanted to be in South Clocktown.
And that was a good call.
Thunk, thunk.
That was
Crunchy audio.
And you guys see how they make the staircase. This is a very inefficient way to make a door. Just for the record.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of space.
It's good for security in that the door and the whatchamafloppet. The door and the staircase are like the same.
Weird.
What's wrong?
I was standing on that.
Oh, they moved you. That's creepy. You were indeed moved. I was like, what's happening?
But you can see there's the face of the clock up there now.
Yes. But it's good for security in that the staircase and the door are the same. And so, like, you know, if you just open the first layer of the door, you still have all the rest of it that's in your way. But it's very, yeah, as you say, weird and efficient. Silence. Sis!
This exact same dialogue plays out a little differently this time.
Yeah, Tattle's saying different things now. Tail! Swamp, mountain, ocean, canyon. Hurry! The four who are there! Bring them here! I wonder what Tail knows. Like, does he know about the whole
I don't know.
fairy tale that the grandmother told us? Don't speak out of line, stupid fairy. Ah! That's it! I won't let things go the way you expect them to. Well, whatever. Even if they were to come now, they wouldn't be able to handle me. Just look above you. If it's something that can be stopped, then just try to stop it.
So we learned this song a while ago, as was noted. Right down A, down right up. Yeah. I haven't exactly played this one often.
No, you don't. And this is the cutscene that I feel like gets ruined by, in the 3DS, they have it be super red in the sky. Like, the whole thing is just red. And then all the light is red, and it makes the giants look really weird because all the colors are messed up. Like, green looks black, etc., because it's red, right? So I don't like the way they did that.
You can hear their voices in the background.
You can. That's why he's reacting.
Feel the enormity of it.
Yeah, kind of the gravitational force of it, right?
A little bit of crunch in there.
A little.
A lot of bit of crunches in there.
It's not as bad as some of the bits were.
Kind of a fisheye lens effect.
A little.
It's a very wide field of view, it feels like.
I always think it's kind of funny some of the angles they end up choosing to once they stop the moon. And the angles they show us of the giants feels a little like, why would you voluntarily choose that angle? I'll point them out probably. That one. Why did you choose that angle? All the other ones you see their face.
Yeah, I don't know.
They stopped it. It stopped. We did it! It stopped! The end of the game. Sis! Tail! Good, we made it in time. The giant skull worked on the skull kid. Hey, Skull Kid, do you realize what you've been doing to everyone? Wait, sis, don't be so hard on the Skull Kid. Tail, why are you protecting him? Are you mad at him for hitting you so much? He was lonely, the Skull Kid. He was trying to destroy everything around him. That is not the same as a lonely child. We can't allow that. The power of the mask made him do it. It was too much for the Skull Kid to handle. It's 'cause he doesn't know his place. On top of having a weak will and no strength of heart, he's a fool. Certainly, he had far too many weaknesses to use my power. Yeah, that's right! Admit your stupidity! Huh? I love the way they show that he's a puppet by having his body just be loose. Mm-hmm. And I did not read the dialogue.
A puppet that cannot be used is no more than garbage.
This puppet's role has just ended.
You keep thinking every single text box is going to be on an A button, and it's not.
It can't be! Then that moon?
So if it doesn't have one of these
I know, but I wasn't looking at that part of the screen. I was looking at how his feet were dangling loose and limp. His eyes are glowing. I shall consume everything. You didn't say enough consumes.
I know.
There were 3 consumes. That's how you know he really means it.
Yep.
Ah, this isn't good! Let's go back! Hurry, the Song of Time! Oh no, you've got to be kidding! Don't tell me you're going up there!
Yeah.
I won't do it. You go by yourself. I'm staying here with Tail.
The audio getting crushed.
Exactly, like the planet. I'll go. Imagine if you switched berries at the last minute.
Yeah.
What? What are you saying, Tail? Is something wrong with you? I don't always want to be running away. If only I'd been strong, the Skull Kid wouldn't have... I understand. I'll go. After all this time, Tail, you've gotten really stubborn, just like someone else I know. It's you. You know, you guys are really stupid. Ready for something really surreal?
Windows XP desktop. Oh yeah.
Very surreal.
It's a really pretty area.
Look around. I think there's mountains in the background. Isn't that nice? So, do you feel like the Skull Kid being a puppet for... Oh, how close can you get?
I don't know.
Is this like the Truman Show or something?
This is as far as we can go.
Oh, I was looking further. It's like the Truman Show, right?
Obviously, you're not meant to do that.
Yes. Where was I? Oh, yes. Do you feel like the Majora's Mask kind of saying, like, you know, the Skull Kid was a puppet this whole time? Do you feel like that is a plot twist?
Kind of, because everybody's been focused on the imp.
Yeah. As a kid.
It's not like 100% a twist in so much as like they have stuff that talks about it, but...
As a kid, I definitely felt like I was thinking the Skull Kid was the bad guy, and then it was like, actually he was being used by Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of a surprise. Like, you think, oh, obviously, you know, there must be some kind of big boss you're going to fight, which hasn't happened yet. But you kind of think, oh, we did, you know, defeated the Skull Kid. Then suddenly it's like Majora's Mask is like, well, I'm going to dump him and go do it myself now. It definitely feels like, it felt like a twist to me. So I'm curious to know what people's thoughts were and reactions were when they first experienced this game. If it felt like it was a surprise twist. I feel like I remember thinking it was. Nice weather, isn't it? Masks. You have a lot, like bunny ears. You
Yeah.
too. Will you be a mask salesman? This is add to the surrealness of this game, right? Then I'll play with you. So, the masks. Give me some.
Wonder who this kid's supposed to be. Is this a happy maskman?
That's what people speculate, is
childhood?
that the happy mask salesmen are some kind of weird eldritch creatures that live in the moon and collect masks weirdly. More! Save Bunny Hood for last, right? You chose Georg first, so you're gonna need 3. You don't think you're gonna find a use for that, huh? Thanks! You're a nice person, aren't you? Sure.
That's a really weird construction because I'd expect an A in there.
You're a nice person.
You are a nice person.
I added the word A, didn't I? Maybe this is a translation error. Hide and seek. Let's play. All right, I'll hide. So in the Moon Dungeons, there are a bunch of gossip stones that tell you where all of the masks can be found.
There's also a piece of heart in each one, and I ain't gonna get a piece of
We're
heart.
not getting all of them. I, as a weird person like I am, wrote down what all of the gossip stones say, which is probably not super interesting because it just tells you where all of the masks are that we already acquired. But in this particular dungeon, we've got one that says, it seems Shiro, the unseen stone soldier, had the stone mask. It seems Guru, the traveling musician, had the Bremen mask. It seems the old woman with the bomb bag had the blast mask. It seems the Deku Scrub butler had the mask of sense. And it seems the giant's mask was dormant in Stone Tower Temple.
I don't know the way to get through this maze.
Well, you'll get there eventually. I think you want the middle. To leave. I think you found it. No, never mind. Oh, you found the piece of heart, though.
Well, I found the piece of heart by accident. I'm not planning on getting all of these.
But it happened.
But it might happen anyway.
You are going to... And obviously, if you don't care about getting the piece of the heart or don't care about the final mask, then you don't have to do this. You can just, like, walk right up to Majora, the child that has Majora's mask on its face, and, just go and fight him. You don't have to do any of this stuff. And if you don't have enough masks, you can't do all this stuff. Now, we've never done this where, like, let's say you had 19 masks instead of the 20 masks. So you need to give each of them, like, a certain number of masks to be able to enter a dungeon, also to leave the dungeon. What would happen if you had, like, 19 where you could enter but not enough to leave? Would they just not let you enter in the first place?
I don't know how
Or would
that
you get
has
stuck
handled.
inside and never really leave?
I don't know.
I don't know. You found me. Hey, I want more masks.
Here, stay up all night.
More. He's gonna sell these masks as a mask salesman.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
More.
Yeah, I mean, you even have the same hair as the...
Yeah, they have the same hair. They talk about being mask. Are you gonna be a mask salesman? Thanks. You're nice. Can I ask a question? The right thing. What is it? I wonder, if you do the right thing, does it really make everybody happy?
Boy, that's a loaded philosophical question.
What is the right thing, and does it make everybody happy?
Like, the difficulty with trying to answer that question is...
You could roll around the outside of this and
yeah,
see.
you could. The right thing is partially subjective because morality is subjective. So, like, having an answer to the question of, like, what is the right thing?
Ah, nice weather, isn't it?
Like, different people have different, like, conceptions of what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me personally, I look to what maximizes individual, like, potential. It's just not quite the same thing as freedom. Like, because I think that it requires everybody to be dedicated to, like, maximizing each other person's individual potential.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's kind of supporting each other in that regard.
Uh-huh.
And so there's lots of things that hamper that sort of framework, right? So, or that sort of, like, goal. And so, like, selfishness, for example, and greed often hamper those sorts of things.
For other people, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, your potential is hard. Like, if the best thing to have happen is to maximize everyone's potential. But again, like, what is happiness as well? Because we have such an obsession with, like, the pursuit of happiness. That you want some more masks. Like, happiness is a byproduct. So, like, what is the... Like, you can't, like, pursue happiness in and of itself.
Yeah. The lack of music here is very stark. Like, I mentioned it being very surreal. The fact that you are, and imagine this as a kid interacting with this, right? You enter the moon, don't know what to expect at all, maybe inside of a rocky place to fight Majora, and suddenly you're in this bucolic, green pasture or whatever, with this beautiful tree and birds chirping, and these children that are asking you philosophical questions.
I think you can probably leave through that portal.
I would guess, yeah. So, like, if you're not able to leave, you would leave the way you came, is what you're saying?
I think,
okay.
Probably.
It's very surreal and strange, and a very interesting way to end the game with this kind of scenario. This is not like the way a game like this normally ends, by, like, let's discuss some of these philosophical issues and, like, have this weird, this is what's inside the moon, right? Like, that's really weird. Let me read there are, believe it or not, right here you can see there are a bunch of these gossip stones. That one says, it seems the one cursed by strange, sparkling gold spiders had the Mask of Truth. We gotta fight him again. We weren't able to fight him in the shrine behind the waterfall, but we're gonna fight him here. It seems his mother, Madame Aroma, had Cafe's mask. It seems the all-night mask was being sold at the Curiosity Shop. It seems Grog of the Cuckoo Shack had the bunny hood. And
jump attacks.
And it seems the owner of the Curiosity Shop was keeping the Keaton mask. So there you go. That's what he tells you about in Link's dungeon. And you get a piece of heart after all. And I feel like there's one of these you have to hit an arrow switch to leave, but I don't remember which one it is. But yeah, it's such an odd way to have the final part of your game. And I think it's a really bold choice. And part of why this game is both considered to be kind of an oddball and why it's really popular is because it's doing odd choices like that. You know?
Yep.
I think we read that before.
Probably.
I can't tell if... Okay, yeah, that was hurting it. I was going to say, I couldn't tell if it was being injured by that or not. But yeah, I think it's a really neat thing, and we will see what the question is that this one asks us. Another thing I asked a little earlier about if Majora's Mask versus the Skull Kid is a plot twist, finding out that Majora's Mask perhaps was in control, and that maybe it was a gradual thing where it started out where Skull Kid was in control and kind of turned into the no, do you get to keep... What do you do with the rupees that you collect during this time period? Do they just vanish? Do you somehow keep
they
them?
probably just vanish.
That's...
Bomb shoes.
Why are they even doing that then? That's so mean.
Why bomb shoes? What am I supposed to...
There's an X. X marks the spot.
X does mark the spot.
Like, it just feels very cruel to give you rupees that you will never be able to use.
I mean, I got those rupees because I killed it.
That's fair. You might need to back up a lot. But another question involving that is, how culpable is the Skull Kid versus Majora's Mask? Like,
I mean, yeah, like the Skull Kid probably bears...
Other way around, turn around.
Probably bears some responsibility. Okay, that worked.
I knew there was an ice switch somewhere. It makes a ladder, I think. Ah! I guess you have infinite.
I have infinite magic, so why go through the
Why
time
not?
of changing it?
Yeah.
So, like, the Skull Kid definitely bears some culpability for being the sort of person who would steal Majora's Mask in the first place.
Yeah.
So like the instigation,
And also, like I said, how much did he like have control at the beginning and lose control versus immediately been taken over?
yeah.
You know. That's a disturbing eye. I see you. Ah. What happens if you use up all 10 of your bomb juice?
I don't know.
Maybe this way you have to leave for the front again, huh? Let's see how it goes. Ooh. Diagonal? I don't even know what to do at this point. Oh, that works, yeah. Not that timing, though.
Okay.
You had bad timing shooting it, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if shooting it's the right solution or not.
I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think you're supposed to maybe go to diagonal or something. But I think it's an interesting question to ask about, like, what is the culpability of the... Oh! That was interesting.
Deku nuts blow up.
Fascinating.
Bomb juice.
That's fascinating.
Hi, yes, random tricks.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting question to ask. Because I do think a theme of the game is, like, you know, dealing with, like, forgiveness and stuff. Because we see that with, like, the four
forgive
giants.
your friend.
Yeah, forgive your friend, exactly. Like, what is this? Like, it's all the stuff with the mask salesman stuff with these things, and
I found you.
this is inside the moon. Like, it's all.
What's with that block?
It's unhappy. It's all. It's like, kind of looks like the moon's face, doesn't it? It's all very mysterious and weird, and like makes you want to know, like, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's a metaphor for something. But yeah, definitely like a theme. I feel like is. You can't do those ones.
I know.
Oh, okay, never mind.
But I'm gonna want it after I'm.
I think definitely a theme is forgiveness, and so kind of the question of how culpable is he?
I'm nice.
Can I ask a question? Your true face. What kind of face is it? I wonder. The face under the mask. Is that your true face?
So it's kind of an interesting. This is an interesting question.
Ask Batman that question.
Well, because like. If you talk about masks, obviously there's the literal like masquerade, what your face actually look like, that sort of thing. But it's kind of like, what's your true self, like versus the self that you present socially. Yeah.
Your real face. Show it to me. You can't be wearing a mask for him, huh? Nice weather, isn't it? Yeah, like as you say, the mask that you present to people versus your actual identity. I was obviously taking the joke of.
Is this the one that wants to?
Yes. Yes, because it's goat.
Because it's. I feel like I'm doing these backwards.
You are. You started with 3, 4, 2. You're gonna end with 1. Adolwa. Yeah. I'll hide. But. Oh,
right, this one.
Yeah, I was making a joke with Batman that I like the animated version of Batman. They say that the voice actor Kevin Conway, I don't know,
something like that.
He deliberately boing. This is horrible. I hate this. I'm so bad at Eagles. He when he was like his default voice for the character was the Batman voice, and the Bruce Wayne voice was the one that was like put on. Mm-hmm. So like when he would be like alone with Alfred, he would be doing. When he would be alone with Alfred, he'd be doing the Batman voice, not the Bruce Wayne voice, for example, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I was making that joke about, you know, is his face behind the mask the true face? Like maybe Batman is his true face. But yeah, as you point out, not literal masks, but metaphorical masks. I'm so used to the fact that.
It's a jump.
Maybe. It looks like it. I'm so used to the fact that this is how the game ends that even though I know it's weird, I feel like. Ow. I feel like the impact of it is lessened because I know this is what's coming. I imagine, especially as an adult, 'cause when you're a kid, you just kind of often will just go with things because like that's just, you know, everything's new, right?
Yeah, everything's new. There's no precedent.
You don't have like this is how this genre. Oh, that's gonna go well. You're not like this is how this genre is supposed to work. This is how this, whatever's supposed to work. So you're just like, this is weird. Let's go with it. You know, for this being what you do at the end of the game. But I wonder for an adult who's like, I'm playing a Zelda game for the 50th time, and this is where this goes. It must be very... I'm kind of curious to know what that experience is like and how, like, bizarre this is. Having this whole thing with, like, the kids who are playing hide and seek with you and are math salesmen and all of this. It must be very peculiar. I'm going to read what the gossip stones say as you fall to your doom.
It's not taking any health from me, thankfully.
Yeah, that's good. So the Gorn Dungeon, we've got 5 gossip stones here. I guess there's probably 5 in each because there's 20.
This is actually a little bit easier to do on the GameCube controller than on the 3DS because of the notches.
See, they have the...
Allowing me to line up straight.
The notches are good for
better.
something, huh?
They are good.
That's a good point there. It seems the Great Fairy in town had the Great Fairy's mask. It seems Camaro, the spirit dancer, had Camaro's mask. It seems Skull Kita, captain of the Skull Knights, had the captain's hat. I don't think anyone else ever anywhere in this game refers to them as Skull Knights, so I think that's fascinating. It seems the Hungry Goron was wearing Donjero's mask, and it seems the Gibdo mask could fall from Pamela's father's cursed face. I think you are cursed. What do you think?
I think I don't 100% know how to do this, and I hate it.
I have a map if you want to look at it.
The problem isn't so much directions, it's like...
That's fair. It looks like
execution.
Their suggestion is to go across the bridge all the way. Like when you get to the bit where there's the bridge and you go, and you have been stopping. Right here. Never mind, you can do that too. They were suggesting stopping and restarting, I think.
Yeah, I tried to do that and I fell.
Okay. And then you go this way.
Yeah.
And then you keep back there. Though I'm not sure... Okay, I think... Oh, this is the exit. Oh, actually, go to the entrance, then you just turn and you go straight across like that.
Okay.
And
but that's a jump, isn't it?
I think so. But if you're not worrying about the piece of heart, you just do this part here. And I don't think you're worrying about the piece of heart. Sorry, we're looking at a map. The guide is open on my lap because that's where I wrote down all the Gossip Stone notes.
Yep.
The guide has lots of text of things
Writing
that
in
I added
books
to
like
it.
a true
Yes.
English person.
English major person?
Yes.
Major English person.
Is it this way?
Okay, it's if you just walked on it from here, it would be to your left. It's upside down. So
Yeah, there it is.
left from where you entered. Don't step on that thing in the middle. I think it takes you back or something. Oh, you got up speed. Good. Yay! If you don't get the piece of heart, this is much harder.
Yeah, this is why I'm not getting all of the pieces of heart up here, because getting through this is a gigantic pain in the rear end, and I do not care to do it.
That one's the worst one. The Goron one. Like, the Zora one is difficult just because you need to know where you're going, so you want to have a map. Also, I think the carpet is different. And, like, the color. This one's red. I want more masks. Hello, goat. Which of these masks would you most want to wear? Like, the masks in this game. Which one do you think is, like, the most fun, like, as an aesthetic? Like, I'm going to a masquerade ball and I'm wearing a mask. Let's do this one first. Or did you actually want to...
I mean, the Zora mask, obviously.
Well, they're not transformation masks.
Ah, okay.
But, like, as, like, you know, I'm going to I don't know, it's Halloween and I'm wearing a mask for Halloween or something as a costume or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not Camaro's mask.
Garo, maybe?
The Garo mask, like the hood?
Yeah, that could be fun. A lot of them would be really weird, frankly.
Yes.
Like Cafe or Gorman mask.
The crying
Yeah.
circus leader mask. That would be a very peculiar choice. I think Majora's mask would be pretty neat, like, aesthetically. But obviously, it would be, in practicality, it would be really annoying because...
Oh, Great Fairy mask freak everyone the crap out.
It would be really annoying in practical terms because it's such a weird shape to have it stay on your face. Bunny hood, obviously, would be the easiest to deal with.
It would be. Blast mask would be terrible.
Bremen mask isn't awful. Like, in terms of... Oh, imagine wearing Don Gero's mask with a giant frog on your head. That might be kind of
Obviously,
fun.
you need the all-night mask to stay awake.
Aesthetically, I mean, we're imagining this as a prop, so it wouldn't actually do
That's
that. But it's kind of an interesting choice, because it's, like, got
Postman's
lots of...
hat is, like, the most
Stupid.
non-mask.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Bunnyhood's not a mask
and
either.
ask a question.
Let's ask a question. What makes you happy?
Snuggles.
Books. I wonder, what makes you happy? Does it make others happy too?
Some.
Now, my question with that, because you can take that two ways. When you do that thing that makes you happy, does it make other people happy? Or when they do that thing, does it make them happy?
That's true. That is two different takes on it.
Yeah. And that kind of leads, again, with the subjective morality thing of, it makes you happy when you do that, but doesn't make other people happy. Like, when you're doing the greedy thing, it makes you happy, but not other people that you're talking about before.
Nice weather.
You have a lot of masks. Will you too be a mask salesman? And I'll play with you. Give me some masks. Gimme.
I don't actually have that many masks.
That's because this is Adola, so he only asks for one mask. They had to figure out the math.
Yeah.
To have
2, 4, 6, 8 adds up to 20.
Yes, and that worked out very well for them.
It did.
So I don't know how, because obviously you have to have 4 masks because it's the 4 bosses' remains.
Yeah, the fact that it
So you
comes
have to have
out
4
even
people.
means that you can always kind of figure out.
So I don't know if they chose
even amount
20
of items.
masks first, or kind of chose it because it worked out with this, or kind of how they did things.
Frankly, a little bit UI constraints as well. Like how much space they have for stuff on the user.
Well, no, I'm versus 15 masks or 21 masks or something. So I went to read down what the Gossip Stones. I wonder if they chose that name, Gossip Stones. Anyway, I'm gonna read down with the Gossip Stones. Also, this is the music from the temple. I just realized.
It is. You're right.
Were the other ones music from their temples too? They might have been. I didn't pay attention. We'll have to go back and watch this episode and see if it is. This one just had the loud vocalizations that really were distinct. So, Gossip Stones. It seems the leader of the Gorman troop had the circus leader's mask. It seems the Gorman brothers were using Garrow's mask for ill.
Oh, I like that both of those are in there.
Yeah, it's cute that they're next to each other. It seems Cremia, the owner of Romani Ranch, had Romani's mask. It seems the postman had the postman's hat, shock of the century. But, it lets you know that that's one of the options of the mask. Like, if you did this and you weren't able to get all the masks, it lets you know that one of the masks is the postman's hat. Right? Where you might have known that. I mean, it's obvious if you say the postman's hat is a mask in this game, who has it? The postman. But if you didn't know that, he can give it to you. Ooh, you might actually make it. I thought you were going to fall. And then the last one, it seems Cafe and Anju had the couple's mask.
Ah.
So there you go. Those are all
that
of
was
the...
easy. And this is green floor, in fact.
Yes.
It's the same pattern, but
it
it's
is,
different.
yes. So it must have been blue and yellow when we were... I noticed the yellow one without thinking about it. I didn't notice the blue one. That was the first one. All right, you found me. I want more masks.
Have the bunny hood.
Oh, the most important mask in the game. Thanks, you're nice. Can I ask a question? Your friends, what kind of people are they?
My sister.
I wonder, do those people think of you as a friend?
Do you think of me as a friend, Jennifer?
Yes, I do.
I thought so.
Do you think of me?
I do.
Yay, we're mutual friends. All right, well, we got rid of all the children, got rid of all the masks. That's weird saying that, empty.
I know, right?
So now we just have Majora left. And again, we just had this cutscene with Majora being, I'm going to go destroy and consume everything. And we come up here in this peaceful, beautiful meadow with butterflies. Yep, they're all gone now. We just have him left. And Majora is a child wearing Majora's mask, is what we're faced with.
Yep.
It's completely different. Everyone has gone away, haven't they? Will you play with me?
Yes.
You don't have any masks left, do you? Well, let's do something else. They played hide and seek. He's playing a different game. Let's play good guys against bad guys. Yes, let's play that. We're the bad guy, apparently, as a fierce deity.
Yep.
Could this mask's dark powers be as bad as Majora? Try it on with see. Are you ready? This is the angle you do for bad guys, right? You're the bad guy. And when you're bad, you just run. That's fine, right?
Interesting that that's what's internalized.
Well,
is flight.
The bad guys run away from the good guys?
Well, Or you could take it like the idea of
Like
the bad guys are cowards who won't stand and fight against the darkness.
Yeah, interesting. Considering that you have the Triforce of Courage, presumably, kind of, that's like the Link thing is courage.
Mm-hmm. It's just interesting to think about, like, what do you mean by a bad guy?
Uh-huh.
Right? Because, again, morality is subjective. Everybody has their own perspective. That's why villains are heroes in their own story, because their moral perspective on things, their perspective on life, casts them in a hero's position.
Yeah, I mean, like, Majora is saying, you're going to be the bad guy, and he's the bad guy of the game. Or she is, or it is, or whatever. I'm not sure how you decide that. The vocalizations are more...
Shall we play?
Now I'm thinking of, what's that movie with the Cold War? You know, the one with the nuclear war as a game.
Oh, yes. I know what you're talking about. The winning move is not to play.
Yes.
I don't remember is it just War Games?
It might be. I think it's Called War Games. I have never seen that movie, but I feel like Shall We Play feels like it's something from that. I don't know.
Yeah. Shall we play a game?
Yeah, it feels like... Now you're doing, like, HAL 9000 or whatever voice. I've seen that movie, like, once. It was really weird. Space Odyssey, if that wasn't...
Yeah, 2009, or 2001 A Space Odyssey.
Yes. All right. Here's Majora. The way that it's no longer, like, a hard mask, but it's, like, floppy, like...
Yeah.
Fleshy feeling, like it's alive. All right.
My turn.
Your turn for a mask.
The final transformation.
I want to see the proper... Remember your battles. When something resistant would deflect your weapons, what was its backside usually like? It doesn't matter. Like, we're just wailing on him. It's fine.
Fierce Deity with unlimited magic is ridiculously OP.
Yes. Now, you can only wear the Fierce Deity's mask unless you do a glitch thing. You can wear it in Clocktown. You can only wear it during boss fights. And it's only really helpful in this boss fight on Adolwa. It's not really useful in any of the other ones. So I wish they didn't have quite that limitation.
Yeah.
This is a very different fight if you are not wearing the mask.
Yeah, Fierce Deity mask trivializes this fight, but it's kind of your reward for...
Yeah, your reward for getting all the masks is that you get to have a trivial ending fight. And also, it means that someone like me who doesn't play video games can beat Majora's Mask if Ben did all the work of, getting all the masks for me. Then I can go and do this and watch the end credits scene on if I wanted to or something. And Majora's...
Also, classic sword beams.
Yes. Very traditional. What are those symbols on the wall? I'm curious. Are they all the same or are they different? Are they just different colors?
I think that one's a Majora's Mask symbol.
Yes.
Then those ones are kind of
I think they're just different
pattern.
colors.
That's
and
where
then, and then the door where you came in.
Like Dolwa and stuff, those masks were.
Yeah, I'm aware. I know that. I was wondering if they were different patterns for the different, four corners of the...
I don't think so. No, they weren't. They were just different colors.
All right, Majora's Wrath. He's angry now.
Crunch!
Yes, the recording device is enjoying the sound. When you had the chance before an enemy was about to attack, did you used to try shooting it?
Okay, let's shoot it with my magic sword.
It's interesting to me how the mask has kind of been subsumed into the chest now. It's like it started with just a mask, and then it had some limbs, and now it's completely that's the part of the body of this bigger creature. The dark spirit that was in the mask, I guess, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You barely see Majora's Mask itself with that image, It's the face of this thing
it's
that is...
dissolving in kind of a freaky way.
Yeah.
I've heard some real interesting stuff that, the Fierce Deity represents the will of all of the people, sort of thing.
Ah. Wow, that's really crunchy.
Yeah, it is.
I hope it's not terrible on your guys' end if you're wearing earphones or anything. It's gonna be a rainbow.
And we've done it, everyone.
All the people who fled town.
Yep.
Before the giants could stomp on them.
Yeah.
Yay. The rainbow upside down.
Probably a little.
There's Muto, the one guy who hadn't fled, and now he's the furthest back.
Yep.
He ran away when the giants showed up. I'd like to see a mini-series of this or something. It'd be interesting. They have lots of characters.
There was the opera.
That's not done yet. They're working on it. So this is a great way because
Dawn
you
of
get You get that
I know,
inculcated into you. Dawn of the day one, dawn of the first day, and then it's dawn of a new day. It's great. He's awake. That's a really great way of doing that, of like having that. And it's a white screen now. Was it always white or was it black before? I can't remember.
It was always black
Yeah.
on white text. Now it's black on white text.
White with black text.
Yeah.
So it feels more like bright.
Yep.
It's a really great way to transition. That we're out of the time loop now. It's not dawn of the fourth day, it's dawn of a new day. And here, if you didn't figure this out from Grandma's stories, we're getting it now. You guys, you hadn't forgotten about me? You still thought of me as a friend?
Oath to order. I love how dense Majora's Mask is. It really makes you kind of appreciate all of the different parts of the map. Especially like the town parts where you spend a lot of time.
Clock Town is great.
Like it sinks it into your being in a different way than something that's more flight-like where you just kind of pass through it.
And that's why I was talking about Ocarina of Time taking us, even though I feel like we didn't do that much less 100% wise. It took us so much less time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And what we didn't do was like busy work of like collecting Skulltulas.
Yeah.
Right? Did you save me? Whereas we didn't do a lot of the busy work kind of stuff. And when we did, we kind of like, we showed it to you, we didn't do it, so we're going to move on.
Yeah.
We're not going to try to get, the biggest quiver and things like that.
Right.
I thought they didn't want to be friends with me. But they hadn't forgotten about me. Does he have a beak?
Yes.
He's an interesting creature, Skullkid. Friends are a nice thing to have.
I wonder why he's called the Skull Kid anyway.
He's not very skull-like, is he?
No.
Doesn't he show up in Twilight Princess?
Yes.
Could you be my friend too? He's more like a scarecrow man. Like he's made of, wood or something. You have the same smell as the fairy kid who taught me that song in the woods. Is this Saria's song reference? I know. Let's do something. Oh, so the evil has left the mask after all. After all? What does that mean? And I feel like, does he know more than we do because the Happy Mask babies were in the moon? Like, you have questions, right? It feels like there's a metaphor.
A lot of questions floating around.
Well, now, I finally have it back. So people really like analyzing this game.
Yeah, it's leaving those questions open, because here's the thing, is like, the developer may or may not have an answer to those questions, right? Like, as somebody designing a game, I can tell you that, like, to me, some of those things are very straightforward, but I have to figure out what details I know about the setting am I putting into the game. And then when I don't put stuff in, that leaves a gap where there's actual knowledge, there's actual information, but that left gap leaves room for people to speculate about what fills it. So there's a lot of questions that this game leaves. Like, how much information did they figure out about Icana? And you can easily say they figured out a lot or they figured out very little. But, like, clearly there's something going on there that's not been entirely talked about, and there's, like, you see some of that thinking in the environment details. And we'll talk about this more probably during the credits some. But
who decided to make the moon that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, someone clearly wasn't just like, haha, let's freak everyone out and be weird and random. Like, they had a thought of why they did that.
And, like, the intentionality isn't necessarily, like, quote, deep, unquote, but it's unknown. And that's part of what leaves room for speculation about what was being done and how does everything tie together. And, like, from the developer's point of view, it's kind of, like, straightforward. And this is one of the things that's, like, disappointing about being a developer is you can't experience your own game as a player. You can't experience it without that intimate knowledge of all of the inner workings and what you did figure out, what you didn't, and how all the details fit together. But, like, it's really interesting to think about, like, I can be working on something like, this is a way that I can kind of reinforce this theme, and here's another thing where I can tie stuff together. But the way that comes out in the final product is going to be different than the way it kind of was to me. To me, it's going to be a lot simpler and a lot shallower feeling than to the player, because I kind of see the creation process, and so it's a very different experience. It's like it loses its exoticness when I know, like when you see a nice piece of furniture, you didn't see the process of like putting it together, and when you know all of the ins and outs of it, it kind of like that level of detail means that a certain amount of mystery and exoticness and like completedness.
I'm not sure if furniture is where I would have gone with that.
I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking, or like a nice puzzle box or whatever.
Yeah, I mean like a puzzle box. I could do that maybe more. Well, now I finally have it back. Since I am in the midst of my travels, I must bid you farewell.
Hey, this is a spot with good enough lighting to actually see the masks on his back.
Yeah, so you can see, like I said, the mirror shield is on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon mask on the side, kind of like the mayor had on the top of his chair.
Yeah.
You can see it right there, the moon mask, I think. Or something similar to, anyway. Shouldn't you be returning home as well? Whenever there is a meeting, a parting is sure to follow. However, that parting need not last forever. Whether a parting be forever or merely for a short time, that is up to you.
Kind of talking about Navi there.
Good point. Yeah, it could be a little bit like Navi, or even Link with Tattle here.
Yeah.
And obviously the giants and the Skull Kid.
Yeah.
With that, please excuse me. Here's Mario. It's me. But my, you sure have managed to make quite a number of people happy. Which is, like I said, the point more of the game, right? With the masks, the kind of sub quests or side quests are the point of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
The masks you have are filled with happiness. This is truly a good happiness. Poof. Well, both of us have gotten what we were after, so this is where you and I part ways, isn't it? Speaking of what he was just talking about, the Happy Mask Salesman.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of fun. Well, it's almost time for the carnival to begin. So why don't you just leave and go about your business? The rest of us have a carnival to go to. Link! Thank you.
Aww.
Mm-hmm. And here we get the credits.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? Link does attend this festival, by the way, as Mikau, which kind of highlights, as I said, the fact that it's very sad that Mikau died, because he's got a lot of people around him that are very affected by the fact that he's not there. But Link will be there, I guess. But anyway, thoughts on the game?
I really like it. It's interesting because like there's different ways to kind of approach stuff of like.
See, there he is.
Yep. What's my favorite Zelda game or whatever? The thing that is really kind of sticking in my brain about this one. Wow, Memory Management Director is an interesting title. Is just like the way lingering in a place due to quests kind of leaves it in your mind, but also the way that having NPCs on schedules that operate independent of the player makes a place feel more alive.
Yeah.
When NPCs aren't just there to be at the beck and call of the player.
I've heard this referred to as a 4D game rather than 3D, because
because you're traveling through time as well.
Yeah. And having that be like an important aspect. That, like you said, there's those time schedules for the characters. And where they kind of have those independent lives. Yeah, and I really like it because I'm not really, as you might have picked up on, I'm not really a video gamer. Is that even what you call that? I'm more of someone who like reads books and TV and movies and stuff like that. So I'm more for stories, and I feel like this is a game that's really good about having the characters, the NPCs, and also like Tattle and Link and stuff. I mean, Tattle's an NPC, but you know what I mean. Link's pretty much a blank slate, I suppose. But it really is. I feel like especially for the time period that it's from, like when you're looking at it as a contemporary of like Ocarina of Time, it does a really good job of focusing on the characters.
Yeah.
And the world building, because that's part of storytelling, is having the world building and stuff. And I really like Termina and the 4 regions and Clock Town. And so I really like that kind of character focus that it has, and that kind of sense of not everything is explained, and that... So we're talking about how the characters... Yeah, and we'll see the guard who likes the song. It feels like the characters exist independent of Link because they have that schedule. Mm-hmm. One thing I really don't like is I have not actually read this, but my understanding is in the Hyrule Historia, which is the book Nintendo put out that's supposed to be like kind of about, you know, the lore in the Zelda games, is they talk about, or they say, they assert, whatever, that Termina is not a real place, and that it came into existence when Link, you know, entered some weird thing, and then it ceased to exist once Link left. I don't like this idea, and I think part of it is because the point of the game is, we were just talking about how it feels real because the characters are doing things when Link's not there, and Link is not the instigator of what's going on in these people's lives. And what we're seeing right now is this is like all the, you know, the whole point of the game is you're making these people happy, and you were improving their lives and fixing their problems and bringing them together and all this kind of stuff. And that's supposed to, like, well, it just ended after Link left. It didn't actually mean anything. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I feel like I see maybe why they're doing that, if they're trying to, like, clean up the lore and make it neat and tidy. Like, they've got all that, like, oh, here's the different timelines, rather than just being like, oh, you know, each Zelda game, except for direct sequels maybe, is, like, kind of this amorphous, you know, legend where they maybe line up, maybe don't. There's kind of retellings of the same, you know, iterations of the same characters in different situations a little bit, but kind of all tweaks of the same story. Instead, they're going for like, oh no, here's like a set timeline where they're all descendants and ancestors and whatnot of each other, and like, oh, we have to make this work by having different timelines that split off from Ocarina of Time, and Termina doesn't make sense for any of them, so it didn't actually exist. And it's like, I don't like that. You know? I think Termina is a real place, and it's much more impactful. It feels
very different from mainline Zelda games, and it's hard for me to interrogate exactly why.
It's purple instead of red.
So, like, it definitely... Ooh, here's the...
I love that he brings his chair. By the way, Mayor Dotor. Like, they didn't bother making a picture, you know, him. They also didn't make an adult cafe. I would have loved to, especially if they did, like, the remake, if they could have had adult cafe where we actually see him. Mm-hmm. That would have been worthwhile. Her dress is actually surprisingly pink. But see, like, they hide him using tingles. Like, no, I want to see adult cafe. Grr. And why does Mayor Dotor have a chair? But anyway, what were you going to say?
Oh, I'm trying to remember now. Oh, yeah, it does feel very distinctly different from a lot of other Zelda games. But also a lot of Zelda games just do feel kind of different from each other.
Yeah. Like I was mentioning how we feel like there's a... Oh, this is so sad. We feel like there is a formula for a Zelda game, and that Ocarina of Time was kind of typifying that formula. But then I was saying, if you actually think about it, the only one that feels like it's trying to do Ocarina of Time again is kind of Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
And the others are actually kind of, I mean, Wind Waker is nothing like it. I mean, think about the reaction when people saw the cell shaded, right? It's like James Blonde. It was that kind of reaction.
Yeah. Then a lot of people love Daniel Craig.
Yeah, and a lot of people love Wind Waker. You know, Wind Waker's great. But I remember, you know, it's very different, not just in the appearance, but also, you know, you've got the ocean. It's like, it's very different. Gameplay in some regards as well. The Wind Waker itself, you don't have an ocarina instrument anymore. You have a conductor's baton, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, every Zelda game is fairly different. I almost feel like that should be a Silent Princess over there. Okay, please listen to the song. Yay. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's not like this is the only game not to be set in Hyrule. Because we also have the Oracle games, and I mean, you might say Link's Awakening is a dream, but like it does exist as a Zelda game. So it's, you know...
And like the Great Sea is technically a successor to Hyrule.
Yeah, and not Hyrule. Especially if you got all these weird things with railroads or whatever's going on. I've never played that game.
And like technically Skyward Sword takes place before Hyrule.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So it's not like it's... I don't think that I feel like their issue is that because they reused models, they can't just say it's some weird other place. It's like an alternate version because they use the same models, and therefore they were like, well, that means it can't actually be real because that introduces alternate realities and blah, 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 we don't want to go into or something, rather than just being like, just they look the same, that's fine, or whatever, I thought that's part of why they did that, was because they felt like having it be an alternate reality was just too weird and they had to say it wasn't real. But I feel like it's much more impactful as a story if it's real. And it makes more sense because it really does feel like there are people like the Skull Kid and the Happy Mask Salesman who are the same characters as they were in Ocarina of Time and whom we see in the Lost Woods.
Yeah.
Who, and Epona and Link obviously as well, who but the Skull Kid apparently goes back and forth between the two locations.
Yeah.
Because he came from Termina and was friends with the giants, and he left because he was kicked out and hung out in Hyrule, and then went back and forth, for it doesn't make sense to me. It feels very much like they were retconning that in Hyrule Historia.
I think Hyrule Historia probably had to do a lot of retconning, having not read it. But a lot of the earlier Zelda games, I don't think we're done with. I think
in the later games they have been, but definitely in the early games they had not decided to do all that and figured all that. They were just making Zelda games without worrying about how they fit together as a series or something.
I mean, the same thing happened with Dark Souls.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a common thing, frankly. Probably part of where you get early installment weirdness is you haven't figured out what you're doing yet.
Yeah.
And that's part of it, I think. But yeah, I really like this game. I like a lot of the music. I like the emphasis on the characters. I like the world. I think it's really interesting. Mm-hmm. I like that it does feel like you kind of marinate in it more because of... in some ways, you called it a dense game earlier. I'm not sure if it was on camera.
Yeah, I think I did just a bit earlier at the start of the credits. But it is... This is one of the things that I've thought about. I'm going to set the controller down 1 second.
I still have the microphone.
There we go. I know. You do. So it's one of those things that I've kind of thought about is and we talked about this earlier in the series as well, the difference between the size of a world is more about how much there is to do in it, not just the geographical area. And so that's something where part of what makes Breath of the Wild feel big is not just that there's a lot of Hyrule.
Which there is.
There is, for sure. And that definitely contributes. But also all of the little moments that you can have in there, the feeling of density, all of the Korok seeds everywhere contribute to that. Different
finding
encounter areas,
little ruins.
Yeah, there's just a lot of little moments that make it a gigantic empty field does not feel like it's not particularly compelling. It's not a place, and so you need stuff there to make something feel like a place. And so having the locations on the map with names like Ranch Ruins. Or Mabe Village Ruins or whatever come to mind. Having treasure chests and little bits of loot and Korok seeds and specific arrangements of enemy encounters and specific sight lines and segmenting the world. There's all sorts of things that they do in Breath of the Wild to kind of improve the density and to make it feel meaningful. And it's very possible to make a game where there's a lot of space there, but there's not really anything going on. And there's a certain sort of, people talk about, it's impressive how big their game world is, but if there's not anything to do there, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's just distance to travel across.
Yeah. So Majora's Mask is a very dense game. There's a lot going on within its space. It's not a huge world, but each area is very distinct and has a lot going on. And so that means you're kind of spending a lot of time in individual places. It feels so long ago when we were doing stuff in Snowhead.
Yeah, it does.
And so because of that sort of effect where it's that was a long time ago. Because there's been so many other things that I've been doing elsewhere, but I spent a lot of time there too.
And I definitely...
rolling around trying to hit this stupid chandelier. Yes.
And I definitely feel like Termina Field versus Hyrule Field from Ocarina of Time. Hyrule Field is bigger and it has that sense of like vista and or prairie or plain.
Mm-hmm.
Like you start in a Kokiri forest and it's like small. And you got the walls around you, the trees or whatever, and then you exit and you're in this little tunnel area. You meet Gabor, and then you exit and you're like in this like wide open space. So it definitely gets that, but Termina Field has way more stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like it is, I think, probably smaller, but also like it's got like distinct, this is turning into the swamp, this is turning into the mountains, this is turning into the bay. Where
it's an aggressive transition zone.
Yeah, it's got a lot of like regions to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like there's a lot of stuff like, there's a lot of grottos in a very small space compared to, how many grottos are in Hyrule Field.
Like there's probably more in Hyrule Field, but like they're all kind of spread out.
And they're
more generic in Hyrule.
Yeah, and I feel like, and there's also things like, you can find the Deku Scrub, if you're in the Observatory, you can see the Deku Scrub who's going into a grotto to hide his loot. You can find the guy in the tree with the red rupees. It feels like there's
those little moments that populate it. Right?
There's the tree that's got, just like this tree stump we're looking at here, there's the tree that's got stuff drawn on it by the Skull Kid that gets us the flashback.
Yeah, because there's that area by Milk Road in the path of the swamp.
Yeah, and you've got that weird bird that can steal your shield.
Well, you have the overturned, or you have the hollow tree that you go through, and then you have the stump with the thing on it, the chest on it.
Yeah.
Like, there's just, like, there's more,
you got those weird mushroom rocks.
Things in it, right? It's not just a space to travel through.
Uh-huh.
Like, it feels... Because that's a really good sort of point of comparison. Hyrule Field and Ocarina of Time is... Like, there's stuff there, but it's largely empty, right? Yeah. It's mostly just, here's some paths, and here's some walls, and slightly different geometry and geography to travel over. But, like, Termina Field, like, you have very distinct regions, and there's distinct, like, landmarks and stuff within them. Like, I remember back to the Ocarina of Time series, where I spent, I don't know how long, trying to find a specific grotto with the water and Tektite in it to get a heart piece to complete a heart container.
Was that when I was playing the keyboard?
Maybe.
I don't. Oh no, it was when you're looking. It was by Lake Hylia, I think. I think it might have been a different one. I'm not sure. But yeah, like, I think there's a part where you're getting close to Gerudo Valley where it's a little different, and there's an area that's got more trees, and the area with the pea hats, which might be the area with the trees. But like, I couldn't tell you where those are geographically. Apart from obviously the Gerudo areas.
Pea hats are southeast, I believe.
So pea hats are southeast. I feel like the trees might be southwest, but I honestly have no idea. And then Gerudo, of course,
there's a thing of trees northwest.
Maybe. See, I got no clue, right? But it feels like apart from the part with the trees and the part with the Gerudo area, and like at the little bit where you've got the river overcrossing it, and you have to go over the river to get to Kakariko, like those are the most distinct parts that I can think of. And and really the most distinct part I feel like is where you've got the river that you have to cross to get to Kakariko. Like that's the part that sticks out when you've got a bridge and stuff. And there's like a tree there or something that the bird, Gabor will sit on or whatever. But it feels much more like it is a way station. Like it's the way to get from A to B rather than the way to get from A to C, and it itself is B. Does that make sense? And Termina Field, obviously it is like, the way you get from A to C or A to B, whatever. But it does feel like it's maybe a part because it is more compact, and maybe part of it is because you start the game where you're stuck in Clocktown, and then it's like freedom. I can, and maybe because it's got more variety of the bleed through from the areas around the sides of it. And not just being its own thing. Like,
I think it's all of those, right? It's more compact, so it doesn't have as much empty space without stuff in it.
And also, I think maybe a bit, the fact that you lose all of your items and have to go and recollect them, and you're probably doing that by going out into Termina Field
to get
and
the grasses there.
Getting grass like you did there in like the end, maybe this last episode or whatever. That... Like I was saying that, I know where to find the silver rupee. If you just did that one and done, when you, when Ocarina of Time, there's a treasure chest here, I get a silver rupee or whatever. I don't know if they have those in that game. And then you're done. Like, you never think about it again.
I think the only silver rupees are the 5 collecty ones for the puzzles.
Okay. But so the fact that it like resets things also kind of forces you to do it again and remember it, and that's what sticks in your mind more, I think, too.
Yeah.
Because like remembering people's schedules even is because like you see them all the time doing it or whatever, and remembering where things like the silver rupees are located.
It'll be interesting to kind of compare how things feel once we finally get to Twilight Princess, which obviously that's going to be a while. I have to edit all 24 of these parts and get them out, so that's going to take 3 months.
Yeah. Also, I do want to mention really fast, I really like masks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like wearing them, and for no other reason than I have glasses, and that makes it really awkward.
Yeah.
But like the concept of masks, like I think masks are interesting, like aesthetically. I think I have 2 masks on the wall in my bedroom. One of them, neither of them are like human size. They're small. But I think masks are interesting visually and aesthetically or whatever as a concept. So the fact that a lot of and dungeons are less interesting because I'm not going for the gameplay as much as I am going for, like I said, the story and the world. So the fact that this game has less focus on dungeons and more focus on the story and the characters in the world, and that masks are an important aspect of that and how that's kind of expressed, where you're collecting the masks. It feels more like collecting masks versus collecting gold sculptulas, which is more interesting, right?
Yeah. For sure. Like, the masks are more interesting, sort of.
Yeah. And I mean, even when you have things like the Giant's Mask, where it's like, you just needed to fill a spot, didn't you? For that one. Like, even so, that's more interesting than, I got another gold sculpture, another Korok seed, Yeah. It's more unique, and it feels like there's more of a story there, especially because they tied in masks to the lore of the game, where masks are really important for the people of Termina with their Carnival of Time, and they have the couple's mask that everyone recognizes as for a wedding, and the bad guy is Majora's mask.
Yeah.
Happy Mask Salesman's an important character. You get the transformation mask. Like, I feel like they did a really good job of tying that in multiple ways. And I like how, even though I'm not a gameplay person per se versus watching someone else play, I think it's really cool that they have those, the way they get Link to have a lot of versatility when you play him is by having the transformations.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. Of having Link be able to be a Zora, be a Goron, be a Deku. That's a really fun thing that I think would be cool if they brought a feature like that back to future Zeldas.
I agree. Because part of what's nice about that is it kind of almost feels like you have different heroes.
Uh-huh.
And as much as I enjoy... I like having different sort of playable characters with different ability sets.
If for no other reason, it feels like a different character in that everyone thinks that you're Darmani or Mikau. But also, as you're saying, different sets of abilities. But continue.
But just the way people interact with you isn't enough in a game. I think it's how it plays also is really important.
Yeah, it's a game, so that's important.
Yeah. So it's a neat way of kind of doing that sort of effect where you are playing different characters in many regards, and I think that's really cool.
And that's one of the things that makes it more of an oddball Zelda, perhaps, is that aspect.
It's definitely a different one. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, Twilight Princess has density feel.
That's one that we've hit on a lot.
Right. We need to go through Wind Waker first, of course, because that's how we're going to be doing things. But and like Wind Waker is also kind of a different take, just because the ocean feels like it shouldn't be dense in terms of like each individual thing. So like the fact, like, the landmarks are the islands. So that's kind of an interesting sort of difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hyrule Field, I think, just kind of go back to that a little bit because we kind of moved past it. The fact that Termina Field has very distinct landmarks at each of the major directions which you go, and there's not a whole lot of wasted space between that. Like, you have the grassy area around the city, but from there you're seeing Clocktown or one of the areas, one of the 4 cardinal directions. And so there's a lot of distinct visuals. It makes every direction very memorable. It makes the transition areas kind of interesting as well. So that, like, the fact that it is more compact, I think... You've
got the observatory in there too.
Yeah. The fact that it is more compact, I think, actually does a lot of good for it, because I think that when things are too big, they tend to be, like, less dense, and that doesn't actually add anything, right? You have to put content in that area, and if you're not putting anything there, then it's just wasting space, which is ultimately wasting the player's time.
Yeah, because they have to travel across it.
Yeah.
Or they get the ability to travel, to warp, and then they never go there ever.
Right. And so, like, how fast can the player move and things like that? Like, this is one of the issues that I have with the concept of mounts in general, which are, like...
Horses,
like, Epona is a mount, for example, is... how does having the increased movement speed warp the design of your game to accommodate it? Right? Because theoretically, if you design the game around the player moving at a certain movement speed, adding something that's faster adjusts, like, it impacts the way that your design ends up feeling.
Yeah.
So movement speed directly corresponds to how big your world feels. This is one of the problems that they've had with making 3D Sonic games, is because Sonic the Hedgehog moves so fast, you have to make a lot of game to have gameplay in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so you're spending a lot of time making these huge levels. And that's part of why with Sonic Unleashed, they had the whole Werehog thing, because that was a different gameplay mode that would slow Sonic down so they could make levels that you'd spend time in.
Rather than just zooming past. And that's like, well, what was the point of designing all of that if you never like actually
right,
look at
and it
them?
gives you more like gameplay to actually interact with in terms of like overall time and things.
Yeah, Sonic is, I think you've said before, it works better in 2D.
Yeah, like Sonic is another matter. To be very short, I think Sonic was sold on being fast. That was a bit of what the game's about. Like the 2D games were about, like Sonic 1, 2, and 3. But being fast was kind of like there were moments in those games, and most of them were just being platforming. Were just being platformers.
Yeah.
That had kind of an emphasis on like continuing forward or whatever, just like most platformers do.
Yeah.
And the transition to 3D, I think they kind of like, the developers kind of drunk their own Kool-Aid. And we're like, Sonic's all about speed. And especially once you get past the adventure era.
Which is what I'm mostly used to, is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, for example.
Like, you start really getting into
and
the...
And
like,
that one, it's not just Sonic. You have other characters you play as, which helps. But I wonder how much in Twilight Princess Hyrule Field is scaled for Epona versus Link.
It probably is. But then they... Well, we'll talk about it more, but the lack of ability to summon your horse freely is a huge problem in that case. So, and that's...
You need an ocarina.
Yeah. And that's where, like, Breath of the Wild's ability, like, once they added it with the DLC of being able to summon your horse, like, that worked really well.
Instead of stables.
But, yeah, it's... Because... Yeah, this discussion's for future times. But.
Yes. So, yeah, Majora's Mask. So, I would say... I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen any of the other games, but I would say it's my favorite, with Wind Waker second. Mm-hmm. And you said the way around, right?
Yeah, I think it's really tricky to kind of order things. Majora's Mask is definitely high up there. For me, it does like the side quests and character interactions, NPC stuff, like probably the strongest. Mm-hmm. I like Twilight Princess's combat the best, as I remember. And I like Wind Waker, I feel like had a bigger sort of imprint on sort of my memory from childhood.
Yeah, that one definitely was influential for us as kids, which we'll talk about at some point when we get there.
Yep. It's going to be a little bit before we ourselves get there, but of course, by the time you're listening to this, we might be rather close to actually...
Who knows? I don't know what the plan is. But yeah, I feel like definitely as...
We have time to come up with one.
For our childhood, this game and Wind Waker were definitely more influential than Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And this one was definitely a favorite. And is it the only Zelda game you've 100%ed?
No.
No?
I don't think so. I think I've 100%ed most of them.
Oh, okay. Just not on the original...
Just not Ocarina of Time, because I couldn't beat Dampé, and getting all the poses is massive. I might have a 100% file for Ocarina of Time on the 3DS.
Okay, on the 3DS, yeah. To me, that's different, because that's not the version I was seeing you play.
Yes, that is very true.
Yeah. But yeah, and speaking of 3DS, I wish they had done a different job with the 3DS of this game. Because I feel like they made changes that did not need to be happening and actually worsened the game a lot of the time with those changes. I don't know why they felt they needed to tinker with it so much. I get the impression that maybe it's because they made this so quickly. They felt like there were things they weren't happy with it, and then they just went back and fiddled with it. And
I do wish more effort had been put into figuring out how to make the Fear Stadium mask usable against all bosses, or if they'd kind of enabled you to use it outside of the
which would be really neat. Like, there are things that I totally think would be really cool to do based on Majora's Mask, of like, you know, the what was it, Final Fantasy VII kind of
remake the Final
style
Fantasy VII remake,
of kind of making it bigger, going in deeper, rather than like changing
I know what you mean.
In some of those ways. It would be cool, like, having the concept of it, but having more characters rather than just, like, Anju and Cafe and Cremi or whatever, but, like, having, more of them or more characters that have, like, schedules where they're doing things. Or, because, like, the really big one is Anju, like, where she moves around a lot. She's, like, the biggest one. But if there's more of, like, I don't know, like, Cremia doesn't just spend the entire day next to the cow by the entrance to the Romani Ranch, but, like, moves around during the day or things like that. Or, like, if there was, because it's more capability and newer systems, if there was more degree of, like, you influence, like, you did something and they have a change in their schedule that you could see happening more with some of the characters, or if it was maybe more than 3 days even, where you could have more time for things to play out, or whatever, or having, I don't know, I don't want to say bigger because we're talking about how great it was that it's dense, which with
you can go bigger and still be dense. You just have to do a lot more work.
Yeah, and so that kind of thing. I don't know. I think it would be interesting, or like if they were able to have more after you beat the section, like if there were more things to do in Woodfall, or Southern Swamp or whatever, or more things to do in Candy Canyon or whatever after you beat that area, which I think, as you said, the mountain area really sticks out because it's so different. And if you could have more of that feel for all 4 of the areas and not just the one, that kind of thing. Or like, things like being able to be fierce deity outside of boss battles and, different things like that. And I think it'd be really cool to have some of those sorts of things and capabilities and whatnot, as well as having, like the better quality graphics and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like this game. It was fun doing it again and kind of, seeing a lot of the parts. I think we did discover a few new things.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad we
that
played
was
through
really
it
cool.
again.
I'm definitely glad we did it.
I'm glad to have shared it with you.
It was a lot of hours.
It was a lot of hours right on top of each other.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about doing things slightly differently when we get to the future games
We'll
to
see,
spread out the recording a bit more. But
that wouldn't affect them, though.
No, it wouldn't. Well, it might affect them if we have more energy.
That's possible. But yeah, so I like this game. I like that it ends with the Stump seeing, again, that theme of kind of forgiveness. And I think that they do give the lore in this game in an interesting way, where it is coming from the grandmother stories and stuff like that too. But the forgiveness and the story with the Skull Kid of some degree of like kind of redemption, and we're able to help all the people, and we end with hearing Saria's song, the reminder of how you kind of befriended the Skull Kid back in Ocarina of Time. And
yeah.
So yay. Any final thoughts before we?
Well, it's interesting that like themes of loneliness and friendship, and
how he lashes out of his loneliness.
Yeah, where it's a call to empathy with those who are difficult, those who are. Many people do cruel things for many different reasons, but one of the reasons is because they are putting their own hurt out into the world, like it's an expression of their own pain. Also, like if you feel like you don't have any control in your life, which he wouldn't have felt, like his friends were leaving him, he couldn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah,
that's a loss of control. And so a potential reaction to that can be destruction, because lashing out in a destructive way is a form of control. You might not feel like you can build anything up, but you can tear stuff down. Yeah, and that's at least a decision you can make. And how reaching out and reaching through that pain to connect to that person can do a lot to change them. Yeah, I mean, Tail is interesting in that regard, because Tail, you've got Tattle with you, and Tail's with the Skull Kid the whole time. So, like, he's seeing all the stuff the Skull Kid is doing. And like, he's trying to stop the Skull Kid from destroying everything by, like, letting like, hey, the 4 giants, get them here. But also he's kind of empathizing and is like, he's really lonely, and kind of more forgiving than Tattle is towards some of the Skull Kid's behavior. So kind of that, of like not enabling what he's doing, but also kind of empathizing with him as a person. You can kind of see that. And like, the 4 giants, where they're also like,
forgive our friend and save our friend and stuff, where you don't realize what they're talking about at the time necessarily. But they still think of him as a friend. As the kid says, you still thought of me as a friend despite all of that. And so some of those balances are interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So overall, I definitely quite enjoyed it. There is also the question of who's asking those philosophical questions at the end.
With the kids?
Yeah, like who's doing this introspection, who's like in that mode and trying to figure out their place in the world and how to interact with other people and how to socialize and how to be a friend.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're definitely, the questions are focused. I have them written down because I'm a weirdo who does that.
It's like, what's the right thing? And if you do that, like, will that make other people happy?
Yeah, because they're the happy mask salesmen, right? So yeah, it's things like, who are your friends? What kind of people are they? Do they think of you as a friend? What makes you happy? Does it make other people happy as well? What is the right thing? And if you do the right thing, does it make people happy? And then what kind of face is your true face? And is the face under the mask your true face?
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions about like identity and friendship and relationship and interaction with people. There's some really important questions to think about, and it's very interesting to have the game be so sort of philosophical towards the end, especially. And the thing is, it rewards you with that like philosophical like ponderings if you've been completionist about it. Right, because you don't get those questions if you don't have masks to hand over. Yeah. If you're not making people happy by doing things for them that result in those masks, like just by the normal course of playing the game, you'll have maybe like 4 or 5 masks, right? Like you'll get the stone or the giant's mask, the Gibdo mask. Obviously, the 3 you can't hand in. You have the Garo mask. Yeah, then you need the Garo mask to be able to complete it. What else do you need to actually complete it? Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'd have to like go through and think about the whole thing. There are some that like you'd almost have to be trying not to get. Right. You know what I mean? Like you just talk to someone and they give you a mask. Yeah. Where you'd be like almost deliberately not talking to people. But like, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about how much of the side quest could you skip and still play the game. Because like you can get the horse without having to do any of the ranch stuff, for example. You just need to like get there on the first day so that she'll teach you the song and then you can just boom out of there. Get the Garo mask and then you're gone. Yeah. And you can ignore the rest of those people, right? Yeah, I mean, the Garo mask, the Gibdo mask. So maybe you might be able to get I'm blanking on it. Odolwas. Yeah, you might be able to get that question, the first one. Oh yeah, yeah, where you'll need like 2 masks to do. But maybe you can't. Maybe you don't have the 4 masks for the second kid. Yeah. Or maybe you only have those when you don't get twin molds questions or things like that. So it's just interesting to think about like. This game wants you to invest in it, and it wants you to invest in bringing happiness to the people around you by serving them, by attending to their problems and their difficulties. Which is, again, why I don't like the idea of it not being real that Hyrule Historia has. Do you think this is the darkest Zelda game? It depends upon what you mean by dark. Not visually. I mean, we thought it was plenty dark because we've got the weird visual, but it's a very I think it's way more colorful than Ocarina. Like its color palette is way more reds and purples and bright deep color, rich colors. But like one of the final scenes we saw before. I mean, we start the game where you're sad because you're missing your friend, right? But one of the final scenes we saw was the Deku Butler with the corpse of his son. But at the same time, like it ends with. There's also that ending with a wedding and with Skull Kid, like, finding forgiveness and reconciliation. It feels like a very hopeful, happy ending. It reminds me of, I think, Don Bluth or someone said that in a kid's movie, you can have a lot of dark things in the middle of the movie as long as you have a happy ending. The kids, I mean, it depends on the kid. I imagine the age of them and stuff, too. But, like, they won't freak out and they'll accept it and be okay with it if like it ends up being happy at the end. Yeah. Like I think that because the
premise of the game is the world's going to end in 3 days, and the characters in the game are aware of that. There are a lot of moments where you're seeing things like the swordsman who's like, freaking out and scared, or like Cremia and Romani where it's like, hey, sleep in my bed tonight, let me get you drunk on Chateau Romani so you're, in a drunken stupor and in my arms when you die, or whatever. Like we've got the sort of dark things because of the awareness.
I think it's one of the realist. Yeah. Like emotionally realist.
Yeah.
Most emotionally grounded.
Yeah. I'm not sure if the same thing as dark.
I don't think it's the same thing as dark. I don't know what I would say is the darkest Zelda game, but like you have
to replay them.
Wind Waker, where everything's been like destroyed by a great flood in the past.
Yeah, and that is like a bright, colorful game, right? Yeah. You don't think about that as being dark, but it does.
Like
have
that's kind of a dark setting.
It has some dark themes. Like that's really good for the kind of bittersweet ending.
Yeah. Like this is one of the happier endings. Like Twilight Princess has a lot of... Because
you had the time loop, you were able to save everyone, right?
Right. Yeah, it has the thing with Groundhog Day of like, the theoretical perfect cycle.
Yeah, And like you do have things happen before the cycle started, like the son of the Deku Butler that died and stuff, and like Mikau is dead. That's not really addressed, but that kind of thing. Darmani is dead also. Mikau's again the one that really hits me with those, and the son of the Deku Butler, because you see that. But yeah, like for the most part, like you, in the middle of the game, you've got all these dark moments of people being like, the moon's gonna fall and kill us. Yeah. But the end result is you save them, and the moon doesn't actually fall. And like you said, the Groundhog Day, one perfect, time cycle that you figured out how to fix all the people's problems and make them happy. Yeah. And we see that in the credits, that it's like the perfect version where somehow you both helped the bomb lady not get her stuff stolen because they're all happy, and Cafe and Andrew got reunited, even though those can't happen in the same time cycle. Somehow it all worked out. Yeah. And it was able to kind of, all of the versions of it happened kind of or something. And, Cremia is supporting her sister Romani now with the ghost hunting, and, Cafe's able to get married to Andrew, and, all the stuff.
So I don't know about, like, darkest, but definitely feels like the rawest emotionally.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah, it's got some bittersweet elements to the ending, and a lot of it is because, like, the penultimate scene, maybe the anti-penultimate scene, is the Deku Butler's son, and then Link, once again, wandering the woods looking for Navi. We never find out what goes on with that, if he ever finds her or whatever. Yeah. So those are both kind of some of the more sad moments. Like, most of the other moments we're seeing right before that, that's all, like, happy moments. Yeah. And, and even some of the sadness might be that they're going their separate ways. But the Happy Math Salesman says, when you have a greeting, there's a meeting, there's sure to be a parting to follow, but it doesn't have to be forever. Right? So, like, there's kind of that hopefulness there of, like, hey, we're friends. And the very ending image that we're looking at right now, where, they're kind of remembering the fact that we are friends, we all get along, we save the day, whatever.
The Giants, the Fairies, Lincoln Skull Kid.
Yeah. So I think part of why it gets a reputation of being one of the more dark or bittersweet or whatever is because of things in the middle, things near the end, but not the absolute end. Yeah. Where definitely I think some of the ends of, like you mentioned, Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, I don't remember that game at all, and Wind Waker have darker things of, like, permanent separation or death of characters or death of a world, like Hyrule and stuff. Like, we'll see if I end up crying in that one or not. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, and it definitely made me cry when I first saw the ending of Wind Waker.
The ending of Ocarina of Time, where it's like, are the sages all dead?
Yeah,
like, is arguably darker.
Yeah, I mean, this one's got that darkness in terms of, like, Darmani and Mikau and stuff like that, but it definitely feels you're not something you're dwelling on at the end.
But the thing is, like, you've averted the disaster, whereas, like, Hyrule at the end is still deeply scarred in a lot of ways. Yeah. Like, the royal family's estate has been, like, turned into a castle that's fallen into a pool of lava.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what there's... rebuilding the castle. Like... That's the real sequel to Ocarina of Time.
There's a lot of scars in Hyrule after Ocarina of Time. And, like, what makes something dark, again, is kind of what the question is. So. I think that probably should wrap us up because we're at about the same length as Andrew and Cafe.
Do you want this to be the longest episode or not?
It does not need to be.
Aw, you sure? But yeah, we've had like half an hour or something sitting on this screen as our little podcast wrap up. But yeah, so probably my favorite Zelda. I really enjoyed playing it with you, Ben. Watching you play it.
There's definitely things that are tedious. Elegy of Emptiness, for example.
They could make some improvements in places like that.
Yeah, but overall, I liked it, and I'm glad we played it again.
Yeah,
it's been good.
Mm-hmm.
So until next time, everyone, whenever it is that we return with Wind Waker, thank you all very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.
Bye bye.